to educate, motivate, and build one another through shared knowledge and success. This is the Young and Successful Podcast on NIDA Radio, and these are your hosts, Che Chukwi and Kenny Awashika.
Welcome back to the Young and Successful Podcast. Our guest today is Miss Kalinda Preston. Kalinda is a member of the appearance community for the city of Homewood, a serial entrepreneur as well. She currently owns Undiscovered, a graphics business, Succulent, a body products business, and of course, she's also in the rental property business as well. We're going to leave the links to all of her businesses in the description. Thank you for hanging out with us today, Kalinda.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So let's jump right into it here. I want to begin with the entrepreneur side of things, right? Obviously, you're a serial entrepreneur. What made you kind of dive into this entrepreneurial space? Is it something you've always been interested in, or you just kind of found it as you went?
You know, I want to say I kind of made my way into it when I was in college. So I went to Chicago State University, and I was going to school for a double major, art education, and then also design. And There was an opportunity to build a website for a company called Nuance Solutions. And Nuance Solutions owns Spick and Span. So when I applied for the position to be the designer of that website and received the award-winning contract, I was in college. I was making $40 an hour. And I think that's really what prompted me to start my own business and to get into that entrepreneurial spirit because of that gig. So I built up that website, and then people started inquiring about my design services. And I started my business Undiscovered in 2008 after I graduated from Chicago State University. And I've kind of been going in that route ever since. When I graduated from college, I found out I had this other talent. I knew how to paint. So I started painting, and I was offered some awards. Actually, Rod Blagojevich, our former governor, he actually gave me a monetary award, and I received some certificates and things like that for some of my art. I was placed in this show for in Barrington, Illinois, for the hospital. So I sold some artwork there, and between design work and artwork, I was getting booked, and people were enjoying my creative side. So that's how I got started in that field. And I took a job in a nonprofit organization called Black on Black Love. And Black on Black Love was founded by Edward Gardner of South Sheen Carson. And there I learned about writing grants and helping the community, and also in-kind donations. So while working there, I noticed some things that could be improved and done better. And I also noticed some things about my community that I stayed in. So when we grew up, my mother was a single parent mom, so she didn't have a lot of money. And there was a Christmas tree program offered by our supervisor out here called Supervisor Frank Zuccarelli. He kind of owns like the entire township. And through that and working for a nonprofit and my graphic design background, I started throwing these galas. And these galas were huge. They were 200, 300, and 400 people coming. And in these galas, people were donating things and coming and supporting the design and the vision, but most importantly, providing toys for Tots, and also providing funds for this Christmas tree program and support, and as my way of giving back. So I think that's what kept me in the field of wanting to have a business, because I was able to network. I was able to meet a lot of different diverse people, and then also build a brand.
Networking, building a brand, and giving back. I like that. Kenny.
Well, Kalinda, you're like one of my favorite people, right?
Thank you.
So we try to mentor people. We try our very best to mentor people. One of the questions that we get from the mentees is, how do I identify an opportunity, or how do I change majors? Because you seem to be very, very good at identifying opportunities. Coming out of school, identifying your talent in painting, taking full on advantage of that, switching into nonprofits, identifying opportunities within that, going at it again, with your businesses, you just find that area of value that you can create value, and you just jump in there and you just do a great job at it. What would you tell someone that is young out there that's like, I don't know how to find what I'm good at or what I like doing? Because you just do it so easily. Can you show them how that is done?
Persistency and consistency. And, it sounds like very, rudimentary words. But when you think about those words, for me, things evolve.
Right.
So, I started off in one realm, but then I always had an idea of, okay, I want to be here in life. And how do I get here in life? So, most importantly, I always keep prayer at my forefront. So, making sure that I have a relationship with God, really making sure that I pray and making sure that I have that background was important to me because you can't depend on people. You have to depend on yourself. So, and understanding that and in prayer and also giving back, the more I sold into other people, the more opportunities came my way. So I don't seek, some people go and seek money. I don't seek money. I seek situations where I'm able to give back. I seek situations where I'm able to help others. I seek situations where I'm able to be a blessing to others. And when I seek
Mm.
those situations that are benefiting to others, then more opportunities seem to always come my way. And that's always been my model. When I'm like, oh, I need to get this right here, I need to make this money, that's when it's just like a headache. But then when I say, hey, I would like to open up a co-working office where I'm going to be able to provide locations and space for the youth to come in and learn how to start a business. And I want to, have an event space for people to have events and things like that. Then, okay, that's how I was able to acquire a building in one location. Or I would say, okay, now I need to come up with the funding for this right here. Then it's random. People will just come up to me, random people come up to me and they
Yeah.
say, hey, how can I help you? I'm in this area right here, or I'm doing this right here, or I have access to this. What do you need? And it always happens that way. When you see a need, when you see an opportunity to be selfless, that's when things come your way. And then I also have a gift. I don't know, I think that's a rarity to me. I can look at someone, listen to them speak for a few moments, and then see the end goal of their vision. And so then I start talking to them, hey, have you thought about X, Y, Z? And they're like, oh my gosh, never even thought about that. No one's ever said that. But I think we all have some sort of gift or talent and just understanding how to tap into it. And it takes time. I didn't wake up one day like, hey, I'm good at this right here. It was all a learning curve. But my best advice is when you think about providing a need to someone else, and you get away from trying to make all of this money, that's when you'll figure out what your true talent is. And that's when people will start trying to assist you.
Yeah, I have a follow-on question to that because there's this line of thought that says if you want to do something, keep it to yourself. Don't tell anybody until you get it done. Do you do that? Because
No.
exactly.
I
Yeah,
think they call it moving in silence.
I've heard that before. And so I am a huge proponent. So I'm in corporate America as well. So
Yep.
I've had a staff of 17, I've had a staff of 20, I've had a staff of 5. And I tell each one of the people that work for me the same exact thing. I'm going to teach you everything that I know. And if you can
Yeah.
do it better than me, then you deserve that position and I should not be there. So I
Yep.
try to now you don't have to give out your secret sauce. Like, if you have a secret barbecue sauce or something like that, you don't tell anybody the ingredients, but you can tell them, the general, the general, A through Z components of your business.
Yeah.
Like
The
I
basics.
share with people my real estate ventures. I share with people my ideas of where I want to be, because that's how you get your resources.
Yep.
Now, it's important to write that vision down. You always write down what your end goal should look like or what you want it to look like so you can reference it. But if you don't tell anybody what you're doing, how do the resources know to come help you?
Yep.
Absolutely. And that is
Yep.
very true. I very much agree with that. And I think some of the things that you said there that really resonates with me, and really it's a common theme with everyone we've spoken to so far. And Kenny, I think you agree with me on this. It's providing value to others, right?
Yep.
Mhm.
When you provide value to others, you get rewarded for it. And most of the time, it's much more than you even imagined, right? When you just get started, people tend to see that and they jump
Mhm.
in and try to help as well. And as for sharing ideas, I agree with you as well. I think it's an amazing thing to be able to share your ideas, because even if you told someone everything you were doing and they try to replicate what you were doing, right? If they're successful, I would say they have you to thank for the
Mhm.
inspiration.
Right.
But at the same time, there's also a lot of people that you could give them the blueprint A to B, and they still will not take action. So
Mhm.
there is that, and that kind of takes me to my next question here, because I mean, I would consider you a high performance individual, right? Not the average. You're doing a bunch of.
I don't look at myself like that.
Hey, well, you. That's because you are yourself. You cannot tell. Let us from
Mhm.
outside looking at you tell you what we see.
Yup.
Exactly. So, but to be able to do that, you have to. There are certain things that have to be in place. There are certain habits that you have to pick up to make sure that there's that structure in your life, right? To be able to execute on everything that you're doing. What habits would you say you've undertaken in your personal life that keep you on track and maintain that discipline?
It's balance. So there's a lot of people a lot of people try to reinvent the wheel,
Right.
and the blueprint is already out there. If you can go on YouTube, and there are 1,000 videos on how multimillionaires and billionaires have become successful, and
Mm.
they're all saying the same exact thing: remaining consistent, reading books, studying, and staying true to what your vision is, no matter how hard it gets. And I mean, that's the same thing. It's the same principle that I stand by. When you have conviction in something, there's nothing that can stop you. So if I'm now, and there's a difference between conviction and then just flat out stupidity. So the
Right.
difference is, if you're building something and it's falling apart, you need to know when to get out. I think that's where people go wrong. They stay into something too long just to say that they have a business, or just to say that they have a brand, instead of reinventing that wheel and moving on. And so that's something that I think that is very, very important, and the core to any successful person, knowing when
Yeah.
to get in and when to get out. But then again, also being consistent with when you're getting in and getting out. And then when you are convicted on something, staying focused and structured on it. Like, I'll give a great example: Airbnb. There are a
Right.
million different people that have Airbnbs. Now, you can get into this business still and become a multimillionaire if you are committed to it, because there are blueprints out there, there's structure out there, and there's always somebody wanting to rent your location. What separates you from someone else is how hard you commit to it. So if you know you need to have 10 things done in order to have a successful Airbnb, you get to the ninth step, and then, okay, now I'm going to go party and celebrate because I have an Airbnb started. Then you're not really committed, because you're not following through on accomplishing those 10 steps. And then once you get to those 10 steps, how do you maintain your business? How do you keep it structured? What are you putting in together? What are you putting together? What are your SLAs? You always have to measure. So SLAs are important in everything in life. What are you measuring yourself against? Who are you measuring yourself against? So those are all things that I always keep in mind, and I keep at the forefront in everything that I do. I know that was
Love
kind of
it.
long winded,
No,
but
absolutely. I think that was also really good, especially having measurable goals, right? Or
Yes.
having those
Yep.
Mhm.
markers where you're able to measure your progress is very important, because that will also help you to determine when you've reached a point of diminishing returns and you need to get out, right? Those are one of
Mhm.
the things that will help you to be able to decide that. So
Just like the
love it.
stock market.
Exactly. Your
Yeah.
your fib your fib retracement levels, right? You know when you're at the top, right? You know when it's time to exit,
This
or you could just
option
hold.
train right here is going to go to zero if I don't get out in time. So,
Hey, listen, man, just keep holding. It might come back. You never know.
yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Kenny.
I would like to just continue with the question that Brazen just asked. Um, starting businesses, because you've started a couple of businesses and you've known when to exit some businesses and you've also been able to continue several businesses. But a lot of people are very scared to either start a business or they just don't even know how to start one. And I know
Mhm.
you've shared several programs, and I think you're part of some initiative that show women how to start their own business. Can you
Mhm.
talk about how people should or could go ahead with starting their business, especially in your city? Because I know
So,
you.
what I tell people all the time, not everybody's meant to start a business, and some people are just meant to work from somebody else. Everyone is not built to have their own business, and it that is perfectly fine. But for the people that are wanting to get their feet wet, there are so many different resources. For example, the WBDC, the Women's Business Development Center for Women, provides one-on-one coaching and assistance for free. If you have an idea, you can call them and set up an appointment and speak with somebody that's a professional in that field that will walk you through getting your EIN number, to setting up your articles of incorporation, to setting up your business plan itself, and then also finding you funding and how to write a pitch and things like that. So those programs are all for free. Then there's also SCORE. SCORE is another program that provides assistance to both women and men on how to start a business, and they give you coaches. For example, one of my coaches that I have worked with was Peter Francis Geraci. So a very famous attorney whose son who owns a million Airbnbs and things like that. You would never think that I would call SCORE and find someone like that to be what I would consider a mentor. And it's
Yeah.
free. These are retired people who have had successful businesses that want to give back. There's also the SBDC, which is the Small Business Development Center there's chapters in different states. They have them in Illinois, Indiana, Minnesota, and so on and so forth. Again, each state has some sort of program that provides assistance for your business, that walks you through starting your business, getting funding, answering questions, and they also connect you with people that are industry leads in that specific area for free. So there are opportunities, and there are so many different options and alternatives that people can get assistance from. They just have to know how to find it or be in our group, because I shout it out all the time, or they have to have an interest in it.
I would like to add too, though, that we don't have. You're one of the very unique women out there that put yourself out there in the front lines to push this kind of initiative. And as a podcast, we've been trying to get more women on the show, and having you,
Mhm.
it's been a blessing in our lives, just outside of the show. And being on the show with the information you're sharing now is also great. How do we get more women into this type of conversation? Because I know it's
Oh,
not
I
easy,
can put you
being
in
a.
connection with Tasha Brown. So Tasha Brown is the director of the Women's Business Development Center. Vicki Brown it's funny, two Browns, but Vicki Brown is with SBA and also SBDC. So I know
Okay.
some women that are very prominent in that field, and they would definitely love to share this information. So I can connect you with some women.
Absolutely.
Thank you, thank you, thank
That'd be
you.
amazing. Yeah,
Yep,
we would like
yep,
to have them and share
yep.
And
information.
they're in our
So cool.
group. So we have some very, very distinguished individuals in this group that I've actually put into the group. And they're just watching. Um, One of the gentlemen that's in his group, he owns Live Wire Construction. It's one of the largest Black electric unions in Illinois. So I mean, making 140 million a year. So we have individuals that are like that in this group. It's just really people need to start having, and that's what I always press, have conversations. And it doesn't just have to be about the stock market, because not everybody is great in that area or wants to have that be their focus. If someone has a conversation or a question about their business or how to grow their business, if they ask that question, there are leaders that will talk about it. It's just we have to
Absolutely.
be able to get pro people to not feel intimidated. And I think that's part of the problem. A lot of times when you're not exposed to it at a young age, there's an intimidation factor that pops in where I don't want to ask that question because I'm going to look like I'm uninformed. And it gets worse when you're older because when you're younger,
Yeah.
sometimes you're like, oh, I'm raising my hand. But as you age, it's like, oh, should I ask that question? Am I going to look like I don't know what I'm talking about? Am I going to look uneducated? Or I don't want someone to say something bad in the comments or things like that. That's why, I try to promote a community where everyone feels comfortable about asking questions and everyone is treated kindly and with respect so that they don't feel intimidated by asking a question. And I think that's really what makes the group unique. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, by the way, we did not put this in the introduction. So Kalinda is also the founder of 6 Foot Six Figures. It's a wonderful group on Facebook that have made
Absolutely.
several people several thousands of dollars with lots of golden nuggets.
Yes.
So yeah, that's a
Incredible
good
group for
plus.
sure.
You're going
Yeah.
to make several people several millions of dollars
That's the
once you get
Hey,
goal.
zero point zero
listen, man.
0.01.
I'm not. I'm not 6 foot, so I'm just there for the six figures.
You're 6 feet.
You
You're
get
6 feet
that?
above ground. You're
Hey,
alive.
oh, stop. I like that one. I like that. That is pretty cool. Yes, I am 6 feet above ground and approaching six figures. So there is that. There we go. I love it. That's pretty cool. Hey, now one thing you said there was also about like people being scared to ask questions. And Kenny has heard me say this before a bunch of times. I don't I don't feel like I don't want to be the smartest person in the room ever.
Mhm.
Right. Because the reality is, no matter how smart you are, there's always going to be someone who is smarter than you are. Right. And in a lot of situations, uh, I ask questions, but I'm also very quiet typically. And that's not just a lot of people when they meet me, they're like, you're different from what we thought you were. You seem like you're shy and all of that stuff. But when we meet you in person, you're different. But the silence most of the time is just because I'm listening.
Yeah,
I like to listen, and that is there's a lot of communication that is done in just listening,
it
right? Because
is.
most of the time, if you can listen and understand, then you skip the whole process of, I guess, wasted time, if you will,
Yeah.
right? So it's interesting because also in the online space, everyone wants to look smart, but I really agree with you there. Just ask questions, and that it makes a big difference. Now, let's talk about challenges, right?
Mhm.
Because it's always smooth sailing, but the part of the game is challenges. There's going to be times when you don't feel like doing it. There's going to be times when it feels like everything is moving against you, right? Etc. Etc. Tell us about some challenging experiences for you in the entrepreneurship field and how you overcame them.
Oh, I have so many challenges. And
Well, let's say,
I definitely like to share those because you don't want people to think that it's just that easy. So
yeah,
first of all, I'm an introvert. I'm typically to myself. So my cousin, he's always the one like, get online. You need to go live. So my cousin is Jonathan. His name is street cred in the
Jonathan
group.
Phillip.
Yeah.
yeah,
And he's always like, you need to get online and talk to the people more. And I'm like, why won't anybody else talk? He was like, you're doing well. I'm like, I'm so nervous when I'm talking live, but I'll hop on and do it. But I'm an introvert. But like one of my major challenges that I went through. So my ex-husband and I was married for 19 years and my ex-husband and I, we separated. So I've been, raising my kids on my own. So being a single parent mom has been extremely challenging for me. And on top of that, I have a 16-year-old son who has autism. So he's nonverbal. So juggling working a job and running a business and then, taking care of the kids, it's definitely a challenge because it's like, when they're here, is you hang out and play with them. And then in the at wee hours of the morning and at night, that's when I'm working or I'll go clean my Airbnb or I'm on a computer. So I get little sleep, but it's definitely something that
yeah.
happens. I'll give you an example. So I bought a property with a friend of mine in Phoenix, Illinois, and it was a cash deal, and we were like, okay, we're going to start this business here, and this is where it plays on knowing when to cut your losses.
Hmm.
So once I got into this, got into this property with him. when it was time to rehab, I noticed that he started, trying to find a different, developer or have someone else come in. And I'm like, wait, this person gave us like the best deal ever. He's going to rehab this whole property for this small amount. What's the problem? And,
Right.
Later found out he didn't have the credit or the money to
Mm.
fix up the property. So I'm like, hey, do you want me to just fix it up and then we work on, me getting the money back? Because I was in the middle of buying the other property that I have in that I want to do the co-working space in. And he was like, no, I'll get the money, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, he never got the money. I'm in this thing for like $18,000. And I ended up saying, you know what, I'm going to have to cut my loss, because when you start a business with somebody and it starts off that way, that's how the business is going to run.
Mhm.
And I had
Yeah.
to be willing to say, I'm going to take an $18,000 hit in order to save my sanity than, continually trying to progress on something that just started off the wrong way. So, I mean, I've had incidents like that. My body product line, I had an incident where, one of the young ladies that was actually helping me at first with the body product line, she kind of fell off the map. But then she saw that people were still purchasing and still asking about it. So she wanted to hop back in. Now, when we started the business, we started it together. And it was like, hey, I'll pay for the LLC and all of the other things. And she was like, hey, I'll pay for the domain and the website. Long story short, like she stopped paying for the website. The website got shut down.
Oh,
I'm in the
God.
middle of like getting grants and stuff, and there's no website. So, I reached out to her like, hey, why you didn't pay for the website? It's not up and running. Just transfer everything to me. I'll take care of it. And she's like, no, I still want to be a part of the business. I'll take care of it. She ended up waiting a week late to pay for the website. Well,
Someone took
let's
it.
just say when
Money
you
is
wait
gone.
that long to pay for the website is gone.
Gone.
And I built that
No.
website from scratch. And the drive that I had the website on is corrupt. So, I mean, things like that happen. You roll with the punches. Luckily, I have my Etsy website, so people were still able to shop on Etsy. That was a learning curve for me again. And I could have just, fell apart like, oh my gosh, blah, 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 blah. But then I look at all of these different things that happen. And I realized and I came to the conclusion that challenges like this are going to happen. And if you're suffering where you're only in the $1,000 range, how are you going to manage it and handle situations when you're in the $1 million range?
Yep.
Yeah.
And again, cutting those losses. So no
Absolutely.
one likes to lose money, but that's the biggest challenge.
You have to accept it. You have to embrace it for what it is. And I think it's also about decision making, right? Because
Yes, absolutely.
there is those times when you have to be very decisive on what you're going to do, and that determines really if you're going to keep moving forward or not. So
Absolutely.
yeah,
And I still
that's
love that business partner to death. Like, we were college friends and like, you're such a good person, but you just made a fumble that cost me money.
yeah.
Yeah,
But,
yeah. It's just like being honest and just being like, you know what, I don't have the money, instead of just having you wait and wait and wait. Because each
wait,
day you have a property that you're not putting it on the market, it's
it's
literally
a
serious.
liability.
Yeah, big
It is a
liability.
liability. Yeah. Stay ready. Stay prepared.
So
Kenny.
on the topic of making money, let's switch to an aspect that a lot of people don't talk about, but you are the queen of that space, and that is invested in the markets and in crypto.
Yes.
You stay undercover, but when you come out the window or come out the door, it's like, yep, time for you guys to make money. You better get in or lose out.
This is true.
Oh, by the way, my OCGN is up 25% today. Thank you. Making some money on that. Again, another one of those topics where we need more women in the space. You are killing the space right now, and you've been trying to get people on board, educating people on how to get their wallets and trade crypto and trade the markets. You've brought together a very strong, talented group of people to educate people on the Discord and on Facebook. Um, Tell us about why you trade stocks and on crypto, and why people should do the same.
Okay. I'm not the guru, but
You're
I
not
mean,
the guru, but you're good at what you do.
I got into the market. I actually got into the market in 2016 briefly. I used to work for BMO Harris Bank. And while working there was an employer, a colleague of mine who was into the stock market. And he kind of showed me it a little bit, but I didn't really take heed to it until 2000 and I want to say 17, when my cousin and I, Jonathan and I were on the phone. We were like, we need to really get into the stock market thing. And I'm like, yeah, I started learning about it at BMO and even before BMO. Okay, the first time I ever seen anything with the stock market is when I was in grammar school. I went to this school called Metcalf Magnet. And during the brief time I was there, we learned about the stock market through reading the newspaper. So that's how long ago that was. But
Oh,
moving
wow.
forward, Jonathan and I, we just started getting on the phone every day, and we would read books and share books with each other. And we would look at charts, and every single day we talked about the different plays that we were in. And he would always say, "How are you finding these plays?" I'm like, "I'm just researching." I'm like, "How are you finding these plays?" And we're like, "Research." And there, I found Doge, and I was reading all the news catalysts on it, and I bought all of these shares of Doge. I think I spent about $800 on Doge, and I had 385,000 coins. And I'm like, this is in 2018. And I'm like telling people like, yeah, back then I'm like, this is going to blow up, because I looked at what happened with Bitcoin. So
Yeah.
I'm like, for me, I was looking at all the people talking about it. I was looking at the noise. And that's when I started thinking, Jonathan was more charts and this, and this. I'm like, look at all these people talking about this right here. This is what's going to bring some money. News catalyst and FOMO. And before the word FOMO, it was just like people were, I would say rally. People were rallying Dogecoin. So, in 2008, I'm like, Jonathan, we need to start a group because we're making money in this right here. We're having fun. And we were just like obsessed with it. And I'm like, we need to make a group on Facebook and show people about the stock market. And I'm like, it was mainly supposed to be for Black people. I'm like, let's show our people how to get into the stock market. And he was like, cool, let's get it started. So I'm like, okay, what's going to be the name? He was like, I don't know. I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, 6 foot 6 figures. And he was like, no fair. That's because you're tall. I'm like, well, we're looking at it at 6 feet above
It
ground.
works
So,
out.
and we want to make 6 figures a year, So he was like, cool. So like the next day, the whole website was up and we started inviting our families and friends. And, I was telling people about Dogecoin, and I think a couple of family members got in. He made some money when the run happened. But, really what really catapulted the group to being as large as it is and getting more people abreast to wanting to be a part of the stock market and the crypto market was the pandemic. Like the pandemic, people really took the time to figure out, what am I going to do to make money if my job, lays me off, or people were laid off, or people were unemployed, or they had these stimulus checks and they wanted to figure out what to do with their money. So then all of these different people started getting into the group, and they were making money off Dogecoin. So there was all of this excitement and catalyst, and we were, calling out different tickers and things like that, and that's how the group grew. But for me, the stock market was just something that started off as a hobby that I wanted to share with people. And then we opened the doors to everyone. Like everyone should want to make money. Everyone should want to have, another stream of income. Everyone should get these coins while they're super low. And let's just change the economic view. Let's change the economic lens for people that are typically considered low or middle class individuals. Let's show them how to take $100 and turn it into 20,000 or 40,000 or 50,000. So that was the goal, and that's where we are. So again, it was a saw a need and moved
Incredible.
toward that need, and we're here today.
Such a great story. I think that's cool. I mean, I think the pandemic for me as well, it was one of those times when it was like you had time to
Yeah.
really study and become whatever you wanted to be. And so I thought that was really incredible. Pretty
Yeah,
cool.
I said there were more millionaires made during the pandemic than, a friend of
Yeah.
mine, she's in real estate right now as well. And every day she was trying to think about how she could get more money to get her next property. And mind you, she already had a couple of ones. But when the pandemic hit, she blew up because she stayed convicted on her goal. She got some grant money and she smartly invested.
Ooh, there you go.
We
Yeah,
need
I
to
think
get with
that's.
Kalinda and figure out how to get this grant money, man.
Hey, we're really there. We're really there, bro. We're really there. We're really there. We're getting the grants already. I can feel it, man. This is so cool. Really incredible stories. Now, we usually, as we get to this point, usually we like to ask the same question here to everyone. For you, what is your definition of success?
My definition of success would be the amount of impact that I have on others. And I know a lot of people, some people think that success is them becoming wealthy or what's going to be beneficial to them. But for
Mhm.
me, benefiting others and seeing, I get excited when someone says, you posted this right here and I made this, or because of you I started a business. I've been in grocery stores and people have walked up to me like, oh my gosh, you're the girl in the group, I started my business because I saw you talking about getting into a business. Like, that's success for me, the impact that I have on others, because my success and the impact positively on others will reap 100-fold. It will continue to, bless other people, because if you help someone else become successful, guess what? They're going to pass that wealth on to someone else, and they're going to continue to pass on that seed. And the more you pass on a seed, the more you see a change in how we think, the more you see a change in how we grow, and you'll see more millionaires born. You'll see more people becoming successful, and you'll see more people starting at a younger age.
Absolutely, that's incredible. So powerful. She's leaving a legacy, ladies and gentlemen.
I
Miss
hope
Kalinda
so.
Preston. All right.
It's a song for that
Well,
too, man.
hey, now, absolutely. Now, where can everyone find you? Your websites and things like that. Just go ahead and drop that info.
Oh my gosh! So I would, I definitely would say join 6 foot six figures, and that's spelled SIX space FOOT space SIX space FIGURES. So you spell it out, and we're on Facebook. And then if you follow 6 foot six figures, then you'll find out about Succulent Products, which is on Etsy. You'll find about Undiscovered Graphics, which is on Etsy, and then also have my own website. It's a whole bunch of stuff. I'll have to drop some links.
Absolutely. We will leave the links in the description as well, for sure. All
Yeah.
right.
But
Ladies and
definitely, I want
gentlemen.
them to join 6 foot six figures.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. Kenny, you have some final thoughts?
Oh no, I'm not adding
No?
that.
All right.
I'm
Listen,
not adding to that, Chief.
look, man, you should drop the mic, man. I don't care what you say next. You know what I'm saying? Absolutely. Hey, Kalinda, thank you so much for coming out and hanging out with
Thank
us.
you. Oh my gosh,
Right.
I'm so appreciative and so thankful for even being invited.
Absolutely.
I'm very honored.
Absolutely. I think we're all better for it. That's what I would say. All right.
Thank you.
So until next time, Che out.
Ciao.
Double out.
Nido Radio.